Hey guys, so we're going to talk today about heat gain versus heat loss and how that affects us in a mountain survival situation. So, anytime you lose more heat than you produce, you are suffering from what is called hypothermia. So, without adequate food or clothing or external heat sources, your body temperature can't be maintained unless you live in a tropical climate. So, if the outside temperature is between that 70 to 90 degrees, you can usually keep yourself warm enough, but otherwise, you need some sort of external heat source. So, hypothermia means the drop in body core temperature. Your body core is what you would consider about around where your organs are. So, your heart, your lungs, your liver, your kidneys, those things are in your core. So your body is naturally going to try to maintain a temperature of about 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Your body reduces circulation to your extremities when it gets cold. It's going to try and keep those core elements warm, and it's going to take more of that blood flow away from your fingers and your toes, which is why they get coldest fastest. So your body can gain heat through a couple different methods. Muscle activity is one of them. This can be voluntary, purposefully choosing to run around and get yourself warm and sweaty, or it can be involuntary as far as shivering. So that is all activity, and activity burns calories. So if you don't have adequate food, water, and rest, you can lead to exhaustion here. Your body also gains heat by food. So your body needs food in order to generate heat. And when you get stressed, you need more food. So if you've ever heard your parent or an adult say, I'm stress eating, or I really should not eat as much when I get stressed, your body's actually craving that food for the extra energy. So you cannot compensate for environmental cooling, so being outside when it's cold, unless you have some food. You need to also insulate your body. I can't go sit outside in a swimsuit in the snow eating toast and expect it to keep me warm. I've got to make sure I also find a way to hold that heat in. Your body also can gain heat through external heat sources such as warm food and drinks, sunlight, fire. All these can help in maintaining your body temperature. We've talked before about how a warm cup of hot cocoa or a hot shower can feel really good after you've been outside in the cold. Your body loses heat through a couple different ways. First one is radiation. Your body is 70% water. So you give off heat to the environment through your skin. Okay, you radiate heat. That's when you touch somebody, you are nice and warm and toasty. Okay, so to minimize how much heat you lose through your skin like that, you need to insulate well, drink water, and make sure you're eating. You also can lose it through respiration. Respiration is your breathing. So air cooler than your body comes in, your body warms it up through your lungs, and then when you breathe it out, that's when you can see your breath in the winter. Okay, so you are heating the air when it comes into your body, and then it's releasing out your mouth and your nose. So to minimize that, conveniently, we all have masks on right now, so that's why you notice your face getting hot and sweaty, something like that, when you are breathing through your mask. Conduction occurs when you come in contact with surfaces that are cooler than your body. So if I go and put my warm hand on a cold pole, my hand is going to get colder. Okay, so to minimize this, you need to stay dry and insulate yourself from surfaces, such as wearing gloves or coats or hats. And don't stick any warm, wet body parts to anything cold, like this poor kid did with his tongue. The water from his tongue actually froze to the post. You can also lose heat through evaporation. So that is when you sweat and there's water on your skin and it evaporates. To minimize this, reduce any sweating that you may have by wearing an waterproof layer. Wear layers of clothing, so if you do start to sweat, you can take off those layers. Okay, so we just talked about all the different ways that your body can gain and lose heat, but let's talk about some of the main causes of hypothermia. So one of the main causes is poor judgment. That's believing that you can go out without that extra layer and then getting stuck in a situation where you might have needed it. So it is something that my mom always tells me. She's like, do you have a coat in your car? Like, Mom, I don't need a coat in my car. My car is warm. I don't need that. The reason for that is it's not because she wants me to be warm in the car. It's in case something were to happen, like I were to slide off the road or have an accident or something. She wants me to have that coat as an extra layer if my heat source of my car were to have some sort of an issue. You also need to reduce your exposure to wind, wet, and cold. So sometimes your parents might say it's too cold outside for you to go play in the snow. You have to watch the temperatures and watch the wind chills, because those wind chills can really get low. It's also caused by not having proper clothing. Again, don't go outside in a swimsuit in a snowstorm. Just not a good idea. It's also not having things like gloves and hats when you should have gloves and hats or scarves. It also is a contributing factor of age and body fat. Younger kids and older people are going to get colder faster. They don't have as much body fat, which means they do not have as much insulation as someone else. Um, so little kids and those things, that's why we always have to bundle up the little ones, and we have to bundle up you guys when we send you outside. So we also need to be paying attention to that, because if I have more body fat than you, it's going to take me longer to get cold than it would for you. We just want to make sure we're keeping everybody safe. So a couple ways to prevent hypothermia. First off, use good judgment. Know your limits, equipment, and your environment. If you don't have the proper materials to go outside on a cold day in the snow, don't. Just know that you need to stay somewhere that has a little bit more heat. Eat nutritious foods and drink your water regularly. It is just as easy, if not easier, to become dehydrated in the winter than it is to get dehydrated in the summer. Because in the summer we sweat, we think and remind ourselves to drink. In the winter, we're not as good about that. So make sure you're keeping your fluids in. Rest frequently. Reduce your exposure to the wind, wet, and cold. If you don't have to go outside in it, don't. I know it's sometimes fun to go out and play in it, but once you start to feel that you're getting cold, it's time to come in. Have a positive mental attitude. Depression scientifically makes you colder. Not exactly sure why it does that, but it does actually lower your core body temperature to be have depression and be kind of mopey like that. If you're getting cold, stop your activity, decrease your heat loss, and increase your heat gain. If you're getting cold outside, time to stop playing in the snow, go inside, get some warm clothes on, and warm yourself back up. Make sure you just wear what's proper to wear outside in the cold. This is my favorite slide on the whole page. Okay, body temperature. Normally we're 98.6. Okay, your body starts to shiver at 96 degrees, and your chemical reactions inside your body start to slow down. They're not stopped, but they're starting to slow down. So it takes a little bit longer to digest food and that kind of thing. At 94 degrees, your body might start to shiver uncontrollably, like you can't get it to stop. Your mental and physical process are becoming inefficient, and there's a very good chance you're going to make some bad decisions. You just don't make good choices when you get that cold. At 92 degrees, beyond this, the body requires added heat to warm itself. It can no longer keep itself warm enough. So at that point, you've become physically and mentally incompetent. You cannot make choices for yourself that are not going to be bad. Okay? The bad part happens when you're between 85 and 90 degrees, when your body stops shivering. When you stop shivering, that is bad. Your muscles are going to become rigid and you're going to pass out. Okay. Your unconsciousness is going to set in. That's not good. And at 78 degrees, death is going to occur because you've gotten too cold. You've got to keep that core body temperature as close to 98 degrees as you possibly can, even if it gets cold outside. So one of the things you're going to notice when it comes down to cold is you're going to hear about frostbite. Frostbite occurs when the cells in your body literally freeze and burst. There is water in the cells of your body, and just like when you put a water bottle in the freezer and it's too full and it explodes, the same thing happens with your body and your cells. So you can actually have the cells in your body freeze and blow up. It's not good. So mostly happens when your exposed body parts like your cheeks, your nose, your ears, and things like that are exposed to the cold air. Also can happen to your fingers and your toes. It's not usually fatal, but it can kill off your body parts, turning them black. Signs of frostbite. Pain or burning sensation in the area. Okay, it's going to start to hurt. Do you see where on his face in this picture that he's got some redness around between his eyebrows and up by his eyes? Okay. Signs of frostbite is when it turns white and it's surrounded by red. Okay, and it's going to be extremely numb. So let's talk about the treatment of frostbite. So slowly and gently, you want to warm the affected parts by placing them against your own stomach. Obviously, I'm not a gymnast, so for me to get my toes up there is not necessarily going to be reasonable. So I can warm other exposed parts by covering them up with my hands, breathing warm air into them. Also putting any exposed parts into lukewarm, not hot water. If you've ever had really cold fingers and stuck them under the hot water in the sink, it really starts to burn. It hurts. It's not going to help the process of actually stopping the frostbite to warm up that fast. It is much better if you slowly thaw instead of rapidly heat. So one of the last things you need to remember is to remember the cold theory. Okay, you want clean wool clothing. Wool is going to be your best insulator. You want to make sure you watch overheating so you're not getting too hot in the layers that you've put on. Keeping sure to make sure you do use your layers so you can take off and add more as you need. Thin layers are best instead of just wearing a couple big bulky fat layers. You're not going to necessarily be able to regulate very well. The last thing you want to do is try to stay dry. If you get wet and cold, that's usually a bad combination. Do what you can to stay warm and dry. All right, guys, I hope this has been very informative for you, and I can't wait to see you in your challenge this week.